Welcome to your yoga practice. Today we're going to work through a lot of hip openers and eventually make your way to lotus pose. So just to start off, we're going to start at the top of our mat. Feet hip width distance apart, palms by your side, roll the shoulders back and down. Take an inhale to exhale. Set your awareness and purpose for today's class. So since we are opening up our hips, maybe you're taking this class to kind of take a de-stressor from your day-to-day life. Find a little bit more mobility in your body. Set that awareness there and thank yourself for being present today. On your inhale, let's sweep the arms up to the sky, and exhale, find a chair pose. Inhale here again, and then exhale, find your forward fold. Let your head hang heavy. Inhale to a halfway lift, flatten out your back. It's kind of our first stretches for today, so you can have any kind of sized bend in the knees. Plant the hands, step the toes back, downward facing dog. Ears in line with the biceps, pedal out those heels. Settle in. Good, then just on your inhale, lift your heels nice and high, and then exhale. Let's drive the heels towards the earth. It's okay if they don't touch. And then let's inhale, shift forward into our plank pose. Keep that inhale going, shift forward onto your tiptoes. Exhale, let's take a chaturanga to the earth. Inhale to a cobra pose. Stay here for a half or a full breath, eventually making your way to your downward facing dog again. We're just going through sun salutation B. So inhale whichever leg you like up to the sky, three-legged dog. Sweep it forward. Set your back heel down. Rise. Find a warrior one. Swords either reaching to the sky or at heart center. Option to stay here or find a humble warrior. So lace your fingers behind your back. Roll the shoulders back and down. Open up the chest to the sky. And then you can take that optional bow forward. Exhale. Lower the same shoulder towards your same knee. Weight is off of your toes. Next, exhale, breath, rise, push back up. Release the hands. And then we're going to find that flow again. So set those palms down. Bring your foot back to plank. Inhale, shift forward. This time, shift forward a little bit more. And then exhale, let's hold our chaturanga this time. Inhale in. Exhale out. One more breath. Inhale. Exhale. Come to the tops of your feet. Inhale. Find either a higher cobra or upward facing dog. Firmly pressing all 10 fingers into the ground. Exhale, sweep your hips back. Find downward facing dog. Drive those heels towards the earth. Inhale, opposite leg up to the sky, three-legged dog. Sweep it behind your hands. Set back heel down. Find warrior one. And we're just heading to our humble warrior. So your hands can stay at heart center if you'd like. And then let's bring those hands behind. Another option rather than clasp hands is bring your hands to your imaginary jean pockets. And then exhale, bow forward. Take a humble stance. Same shoulder comes to your same leg. Really squeeze the legs together without moving them. Find a nice strong stance. Next breath out. Let's go ahead and rise. Find that final flow again. So lift the back heel, plant palms to the earth, step back to plank, shift forward. Hold your chaturanga for longer than a breath. You can take those 3 rounds or you can stay here longer. Eventually making your way to that back bending pose. And then eventually making your way to your down dog. Inhale to lift the heels, exhale, settle them into the earth. Maybe they reach a little bit closer to the ground. Inhale, take as many steps as you like to your forward fold. Inhale to your halfway lift. And then let's find chair pose again. Sit hips back, sweep arms forward. Good. Inhale to extend the arms. Sweep your fingertips back, find a back bend. Exhale, find center. Drop your arms by your side. Good. Roll the shoulders back and down. Open up your palms. Good. Let's heel toe the feet together. And we're going to find our next warrior poses. So if you tend to use blocks, you can bring them out. So I'm just showing these poses for maybe if you have more of a beginner pose. So I'm just showing these poses if you need more of a beginner stance. Let's extend our swords by our side. Exhale, find a half lift. Your arms follow your spine. Let's bring that weight to that left foot. And then keeping your shoulders and hips square, you're just going to sweep the toes behind. Find a warrior 3. Good, so those blocks can be there for your fingertips. And then exhale, optional, bend the left leg. Find a low flying warrior 3. Good, flex the back toes, set them down, sweep your swords to the sky. Find high crescent lunge. Exhale, find a twist, reach right arm forward, left arm behind. And then inhale, find deeper twist, right hand reaches for the sky. You could also find a bind here. So right arm reaches down your back, left fingertips reach up your back. Driving your right elbow and right thigh towards the front of your mat. Good, come back to that normal revolved pose. And then you can bring your hands to heart center. Square everything towards the front of your mat. Now we're going to flip straight into our low flying warrior 3. So our leg is in perfect position for that. You're going to bow forward. Maybe you sweep your swords behind. Bend that back knee generously and bring your weight forward. Find low flying warrior 3. Beautiful. Now you're in perfect position for a chair pose. So right leg mirrors left, step right leg next to left. Sweep your arms to the sky. And then find a forward fold when you're ready. Good, finding the other side. So when you're ready, inhale, roll up to standing. Open palms to the front of your mat. Take an exhale, hinge at your waist. Find your half lift. Distribute that weight onto your right foot. Sweep the left toes behind. Find your warrior 3. Lots of options for your hands. Remember, just so you can keep those hips square. As we're doing that low flying warrior 3, one option is to ground down your middle fingers. So bend your right leg generously, set your belly on your thigh. Good, and just use that little support here to stay balanced. Flex the back toes, set them down. Rise, find your high crescent lunge. Inhale to exhale, find a revolved low lunge. Revolved high crescent lunge. And then find that reach back. Right hand dips down, left fingertips to the sky. You can find your cow facing arms behind your spine. Hips are still trying to square forward, and it's our shoulders that are opening up, and they're uneven here. Good. Bring your arms back to the side. Hands come to heart center. Flow your way to your low flying warrior 3. So bow forward, sweep your swords behind. Bend that back leg generously, and you can take 1 to 2 or even 3 steps to your low flying warrior 3. Keeping that weight off of your toes. Inhale to exhale, find chair. So left leg mirrors the right, sweep your arms to the sky. And then when you're ready, find a forward fold. Press palms into the earth, step back into downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up to the sky. Bend at the knee, sweep that shin and thigh bone forward. Let's find our pigeon pose. Slide that back leg down, set your femur bone to the earth. Hug the legs together. We're going to find an active pigeon pose. So for some of you, maybe you just lift the heels of your hands. For others, maybe you have one hand at heart center. If you have both hands at heart center, maybe you find 1 or 2 arms to the sky. Wherever you're at, I want you to find an inhale, an active pigeon, and then exhale. Use your activeness to fall down into a passive pigeon. Release the head and shoulders. Beautiful pigeon pose. Keep breathing here. Keep hugging in the legs. On your next inhale, try to come up the same way you came down. So if you had one hand at heart center, one reaching forward, you're going to exhale, rise back up to your active pigeon pose. Good. Set your palms down, lift your femur bone off the ground. Let's counter pose that front leg, sweep it to your 3-legged dog. Open up the hips and just bend and straighten the leg. Good. Set that foot down. Inhale the left leg up to the sky. Sweep that shin and thigh bone forward. Set it down on your mat. Find any active pigeon pose. So maybe this side is a little bit easier or harder. So it might look a little different from your right side. Find your most active pigeon pose. Hug the legs together. Exhale, lower down. Good. And you really want this passive. So finding points of contact for your chest and for your head. If you can't find the floor in this pigeon pose, use props to help you. Most of you will be feeling the stretch a lot in that front leg. If you're not feeling that stretch, just remember to keep hugging the legs together. And also another option is to firmly press your front leg into the mat. Beautiful. We're finding about 2 rounds of breath. Starting to make your way back to your active pigeon arms. So I had one hand at heart center, 10 finger pads on the ground. Exhale, press back into your active pigeon pose. Good release, set the hands down, lift femur bone and back leg. And then sweep that left leg back. Find an open 3-legged dog. Bend and straighten the leg. Make your way to a downward facing dog. Settle the heels down into the earth. And then on your exhale, let the knees fall to the earth. Kick your legs in front of you. Come into a seated position. One more stretch on both sides before we find our lotus pose. Let's find a double seated pigeon. So let's just bring our heel or our soles of the feet together. And then I'm just going to mirror you guys. So let's lift our left leg off the ground and just heel toe that right foot right in front of your glute. Set that foot on your inner thigh so that your shins stack together. Remember, if that's a lot, your foot can also be guided down towards your calf muscle. Find your active pigeon. Some of you will like this pose with also a little prop under your knee. For others, you can find a hinge at the waist or even a fold. You don't have to count your breaths, but we are going to be here for about 8 rounds of breath. Keep protecting the knees and the hips. Hug the legs together. And release any tension that may have gathered up in the face. All right, making your way back to your upright position. Just to release from this double seated pigeon, let's go ahead and shift back past our sit bones. Lengthen the legs in front of you, find a boat pose. Open the palms to the sky, point and flex those toes. Maybe you even extend the legs. Good, then come back to the floor. Find that butterfly pose again. So if you mirrored me this time, we're gonna lift that right foot off the ground, heel toe your left leg so it's in front of your glute. Set that foot down as high as your inner thigh or as low as your calf muscle. Roll the shoulders back and down. And then exhale, hinge at your waist, find your deepest seated pigeon position. And once you choose a pose, you don't have to stay stuck there. Some of you may have to take more of a repetition stance where you inhale, come to an upright pose, exhale, fold over. You can find any dynamic or static position for the next 8 rounds of breath. All right, inhale to rise. Good, so we're sitting on those bony sit bones. You're gonna shift back onto that more squishy part of your glute. Lengthen your legs in front of you. Find your boat pose. You can point and flex the feet. And then you can add on to your variation, lengthen the legs. Maybe this time you lengthen the arms. Good, then come back down. You can rest your forehead on your knees. And let's make our way to our final pose, finding Lotus pose. So if you have blocks, that can also be another option for Lotus and Scales pose. Let's bring our soles of the feet back together. And then again, I'm going to mirror you guys if you need. So let's lift that left leg off the ground. You're going to point the toes, and you're going to just set that foot into your hip flexor and draw that knee down. So for some of you, this might be really intense. You can just stay here in a half lotus pose. So for others, you can grab onto that right leg. And when you lift it up, there's a lot of pressure going on, so it might feel like a lot of dead weight. You can gently lean back, find more space to lift that leg, and set it in your hip crease. Now, a really good example is where the ankles are at the hip creases and the feet are falling off the legs. That's your goal. You don't have to be there today. So hold this pose as short as a half breath, or you can sort of let the palms rest on your knees. Find a meditative pose. And then if you'd like to take this further, palms can ground down right where the thighs are, either on the earth or blocks. Lean forward. And then exhale, lift the hips off the ground, finding Scales pose. So if that's not enough space for you, that's where you can add in blocks. That Lotus pose really helps us hug our legs together so that lift feels more buoyant. Here's what that looks like just on one Lotus pose. You have then 3 points of contact on the earth. Good. All right, let's lengthen those legs out gently if you haven't already. That can be really intense for the top of your foot. So gently flex and point the toes. Gently roll out the ankles. And then make your way back to your butterfly pose. So mirroring you again, this time we're going to lift the right leg off the ground, point the toes, guide it with both hands to your hip crease, and then draw that right knee down to the earth. Good. Use both hands to maybe pick up that other leg, shift back to find more space, tuck it towards your hip crease. There's a lot of tension in that leg, just release back down to a one-leg lotus or just a butterfly pose. Take this moment to find a meditative stance wherever you're at. Roll the shoulders back and down. Close your eyes. Squeeze those legs together, so hug them in. And then maybe you find that Scales pose, plant your palms down by your side. Hinge at the waist. Press your hands into the earth and lift the hips off the ground. Good. This one is a pose where you definitely listen to your body, so you can stay there if you'd like. If you need to release that top foot, go ahead and start to release that leg. Lengthen your legs out. Shake out the knees. Point and flex the toes gently. And roll out the ankles. And if you're using those props, you can set them back to the front of your mat. Let's make our way down onto the earth. As your last pose for the day, you can hug your knees in, sort of rock side to side. Find any restorative pose that feels nice. And then just start to settle down every point on your body down to the earth. So drop the arms by your side, lengthen your legs. Let the thumbs fall heavy by your side. Pinky toes fall to the outer edges of your mat. Inhale in for about 6 to 10 counts. And then exhale out all the way. Empty out any air that's kind of being held into your body. Inhale in again, this time a deeper breath. Exhale out, push out all your air. Last breath in and out. I leave you here in Savasana. Bring that awareness back to your mat. Find any movement that your body is asking for. And then head to your final earth pose, either on your spine, or you can take a fetal position. To a seated pose. Once you're in seated pose, find your meditative stance. So for those who lotus pose is a bit more natural, you can take a lotus pose. Hands come to heart center. Thank yourself for adding mobility, adding movement and mindfulness to your day. And bowing forward as respect to your yoga practice. Namaste.